with them, and it is pretty adorable, I have to say.
It
Mark
is,
Preston,
George.
thanks so much for being with us. Let's talk more about the town halls this week and also just the general state of the Republican race with our panel. Joining us now, CNN political commentator and Donald Trump supporter Kayleigh McEnany. Also with us, CNN political commentator Tara Setmayer and Ron Christie. He's a supporter of Governor John Kasich and a former special assistant to President George W. Bush. Tara, you heard Donald Trump say the system is rigged. Is the system rigged, or is it the system?
The system isn't rigged. This is typical of Donald Trump. Anytime that he doesn't get his way, he throws out these bombs and says, oh, it's not me, it's nothing to do with me, it's everybody else's fault. This is the presidency, this is the way the rules work, and you should come to play to win. You don't play to whine. And all he does is whine when he doesn't get his way. This system has been in place where you have to win delegates, the majority of delegates, since 1856, okay, 160 years. He didn't have a problem with the system when he was tweeting in 2012 about delegates and what was going on. He seemed to be quite aware of that. Politico just ran a story with copies of his tweets when he was criticizing Rick Santorum's operation. So he was well aware of what was going on in 2012. Now all of a sudden he's playing this willful, ignorant victim role because he's not winning. He's ill prepared, he's been out organized, and he's coming late to the game. These are the rules of the game. You don't get to switch them up in the middle playing the game. Really quick. So when you play football, you're going to blame your offensive line for not knowing the playbook if you continue to get sacked and then walk off the field and say, oh, I'm not playing anymore. That's exactly what's happening right now with Trump, and he needs to stop whining.
Kayleigh, is it that simple? I mean, look, Donald Trump knew what he was getting into when he signed up for this last June and went down that escalator.
It's not that simple. Here's the thing, John. The rules are unfair, and I think if you ask the viewers right now, I think it's important for them to understand what happened in Colorado this weekend. So let's look. Colorado this weekend, 37 delegates were chosen, and the people did not vote. Why was there no vote in Colorado? Because in August of 2015, the Colorado GOP decided that they did not care about the people's vote. They don't care what the people have to say. They got rid of the presidential preference poll because they decided that they were more equipped than the American people, than the people of Colorado, to choose their candidate. And a lot of people say the reason that they chose this is because they were unhappy with how their state voted in the past. They were unhappy that in 2012 their state opted to go with Rick Santorum. So they discarded the will of the people and said, hey, we know best. Sorry, American people. And in reality, I think if you ask the viewers, should the elections be about elevating the American people? Yes, they should not be about diminishing the American people, which is in fact what is going on.
Ron, what about that? I mean, Colorado is a big state. It's a swing state. It's a very important state. Is this the best way for Colorado to be nominating a president at a convention without, a single vote cast by the general public?
Well, I think it is. I think what you're talking about here is organization. And Tara touched on this.
But I understand that the Cruz people are doing it fairly and playing by the rules. But in a perfect world, is a convention like this the right way of doing it and not a primary?
I think the important thing here, John, is that this is the system that's in place by the Republican Party in Colorado. All the Republicans who were running for election here said, these are the rules. We understand the rules to be as they are. And this is exactly what happened with the folks who are selecting the delegates. So, no, I don't think this is Trump is getting bested or it's getting stolen. It's if you want to play the game, if you want to be the person who's going to get those delegates, you have to know what the system is. And frankly, it proves to me that he does not have the organizational strength on the ground in Colorado or anywhere else. It's all about bluster rather than about substance.
No, it is clear was the game going in. The question is if it's the right game to be playing in a perfect world if you had to make that choice. Tara, I want to talk about the game going forward because the next state to vote, and it will be actual voters voting here in actual voting booths, is New York. You have New York, and then you have a lot of states around New York. You have Connecticut, you have New Jersey, also Delaware and Maryland. Do you see Donald Trump gaining steam, perhaps? The Fox News poll has him pretty far out ahead here in New York. He's looking good in the polls in Pennsylvania as well. Is the future brighter for Donald Trump?
I think as far as winning the vote in those states, yes, that's not news, though. Everyone knew that the Northeast would be friendly to Donald Trump, but it's becoming more about a delegate game at this point. And the fact that the Trump supporters continue to say that will of the people, thwarting the will of the people, Donald Trump has only garnered 37% of the vote and only 43% of the delegates. That means the will of the people, the majority, do not want Donald Trump. So this is just one of those deflecting tactics that they're using to say that we're thwarting the will of the people. The majority of the people do not want Donald Trump. But it's a good talking point because, unfortunately, a lot of Americans don't understand how the system works. They don't understand that it is not necessarily in a primary process that delegates actually are the ones who cast the votes for the presidential nominee, not one vote, one person. That's not how it works. And pure democracy is not what we have. We have a republic. There are checks and balances for a reason. So then Trump supporters like Haley, I guess, think that we shouldn't have an electoral college. But I don't see Donald Trump advocating that we throw out the whole system back in 2012 when it wasn't, when it didn't matter to him.
First of all, the Electoral College, that's a false comparison, because in all of history, only 157 electors have gone against the will of their party, have gone against who they pledged to support. So that's a false argument.
System. That's the system, though.
Let me finish, Tara. Second of all, Tara, if we go by your logic where you say Donald Trump's already only garnered 40% of the vote, therefore 60% are against him, by your own logic, Ted Cruz has only garnered 30% of the vote, so 70% are against him.
Ted Cruz isn't whining about losing.
10% of the vote, so 90% are against him. That is a completely false argument. And by
no, it isn't, because Ted Cruz isn't whining about the system being stacked against him. That's the difference. Ted Cruz understands the rules. Donald Trump is the one trying to turn it around to say that the will of the people is being thwarted. No one else is using that argument but Donald Trump, because he's not understanding the process, and this is what he does. He cuts and runs and quits and whines when he doesn't get his way.
The fact that you're saying Ted Cruz doesn't like the system has nothing to do with your mathematical argument that Donald Trump has 60% of people against him. Stick to your own argument. By your own argument, Ted Cruz has 70% of people against him. How do you justify that? I'm using your own words, your own argument against you, and you're just deflecting by saying Ted Cruz is not saying this is unfair. You're changing the subject because by your own argument, you're losing the argument.
All right, guys, we have several more weeks here in this campaign to hash out this argument and figure out where it heads. Ron, Tara, Kaylee, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks.
Tonight on CNN, we have the Kasich family. It's the beginning of a 3-night town